this afternoon is MLB Network proud to present the Caribbean Series from Mexicali, Mexico. 4:30 Eastern, it gets underway. Venezuela against the Dominican Republic, managed by our good buddy Albert Pujols. Give us some storylines that you're watching for as this Caribbean Series is about to get underway today.
Robert, in case there are so many great storylines, let's begin with Japan Breeze. Now, this is a team of largely independent league players from Japan, but some that have NPB and even MLB experience, including the great Munenori Kawasaki, former teammate of our own Mark DeRosa. Now, the man you see in the middle there, Alex Ramichan Ramirez. Now, Alex is the first ever Latin American player to be inducted into the Japanese Baseball Hall of Fame in Tokyo. He spent some time in MLB, and there he is. He speaks fluent Japanese. Now, Case, you remember him. He was in the National League, I believe, right around the same time as you.
Yes.
And he has a great story to where
I came up with Alex with the Indians.
That's amazing, Case.
Yeah.
Because he had a little bit of a cup of coffee in the major leagues, as you know, Case, but then he went on to this historic career in NPB and now makes his home in Japan and is managing this Japan Breeze team. So he's become something of an international ambassador to unify his background as a Venezuelan player and the Caribbean Series to now bring in the Japanese baseball experience to the Caribbean Series. So, Case, I don't know if you have a quick thought on Alex, but I'll send it back to you, then I'll continue on.
Dude, that's an incredible. I did not know that about Alex. I came up with Alex basically in the minor leagues, and we broke into the big leagues together. And now he's a legend. And that's incredible. And he's living there.
That's one of the beauties of the game, JP, is that, you know, as you said, this is a man that probably wouldn't be in Japan, probably wouldn't be making his home and family in Japan if it wasn't for the game of baseball. So that's a really good note.
Cool.
It's an excellent point. And one last quick note on Ramirez before we go on. There was a great story written in the New York Times last year by Brad Lefton, who said that the man that actually recommended for Alex to go over to Japan, Charlie Manuel. And Charlie, of course, as you both know, had a great career in Japan as well as a slugger, and then, of course, has gone on to an outstanding career as a major league manager as well. So a quick note there on Alex Ramirez and Japan Breeze. Now, Jack Mayfield of Los Charros de Jalisco. We talked about how they won the Mexican Pacific League this week. Jack Mayfield is known as El Capitan de Los Charros de Jalisco. Here he is getting a key run-scoring hit for Los Charros. Jack's family, his mother, is from Coahuila in Mexico, and Jack grew up and still lives now in Del Rio, Texas, on the U.S.-Mexico border. And Jack has he's bilingual, bicultural, speaks fluent Spanish from his mom growing up in Texas. And Jack said to me yesterday that the experience of playing in his mother's homeland, or now representing her homeland in the Caribbean Series on Mexican soil in Mexicali, has been one of the most rewarding experiences of his baseball career. He said that every game there in the Caribbean Series and even in the playoffs before this, it feels like everybody's playing it like it's their last game ever. It's got this teenage enthusiasm between the players on the field, the fans in the stands, the constant horns and the music. I would recommend to anybody, if you've never seen winter ball, go. It is such a pure form of the game. And Jack is describing just what it means to him to have that connection to Mexican baseball. And also how in Mexico, you've got the summer season, then there's a brief break, and there's a whole separate winter league where basically a lot of players in Mexico are just playing year-round. They're playing year-round baseball.
That's great.
And that's why so many of them show up to spring training in MLB in really good form, because they're just coming off a very extended and great winter league season. Finally, for the Venezuelan entry in the Caribbean Series, the manager is someone that we all know well, Henry Blanco of Los Cardenales de Lara. And Henry has had a really good success story on Davey Martinez's staff there in Washington. Longtime Major League catcher. Case, you know, there he is side by side with Davey Martinez. And he's learned a lot from Davey in terms of how to run a game and run a team. But Henry Blanco, for me, is someone who could be a Major League manager in the future. There you see his long Major League playing career, 16 Major League seasons, 12 years as a Major League coach. And you talk about the pressure, and you know this, Roflo and Case, about being in winter ball to win, and for the Venezuelan baseball community representing them now in the Caribbean Series, and a really good team. Ildemaro Vargas, who has, of course, played for him with the Nationals, he is on the team. So all the best wishes to all these teams now with Henry Blanco managing against the great Albert Pujols in this Caribbean Series.
Can't wait. It gets underway 4:30 Eastern. You see the games and the times right here on MLB Network. We'll wrap it up tonight at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Puerto Rico against the home team, Mexico. By the way, Jeff Nelson, who is part of the broadcast, former big leaguer, former Yankee reliever, he's going to be joining us to talk more about the Caribbean Series, which gets underway today. JP, have a great weekend. This is a prime weekend for you. You're skating, you're watching international baseball. It's everything. Here we go.
Oh my God!
I love it, JP.
So
Careful.
That rink actually,
okay.
So that rink is in Cooperstown. So that was last winter.
Nice.
I was able to get out and do it. That's a little bit of a hockey pirouette. I'm not sure that was my best work, but I'm working on being a little more fluid than that. See, Rolfo, I'm not a good skater.
No, you're pretty,
but I can get around a little bit.
I hold on to the boards when I skate. You don't, obviously.
Yeah. When I skate, I go out with those little chairs that they give you.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll let you play with the
walker, like a walker.
Yeah, a little walker. Just so. JP, thanks
good.
as always, man.
I'm afraid there's going to be video of this. We'll see what happens.
There'll definitely be video.
We'll see what happens.
Definitely be video. Good stuff, JP.
Good luck,
talk
brother.
to you soon. See you next week.
Thank you so much.
All right. It's about 2 weeks out from when pitchers and catchers will report across big league camps in Arizona and in Florida. A lot of big leaguers, especially the pitchers, they might already be there at the facility getting ramped up. So we've been taking a look at every team going in alphabetical order. And Keith Costas has been shepherding us through the offseason here. Keith, we land on the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Los Angeles Angels.
Yes, two teams on opposite ends of the spectrum at the moment, to say the least. We'll start with the Dodgers here, guys. And what we'll look at first is some of the betting odds, just to give you a little context heading into the season. Now, you see that note on the bottom about the Yankees, the second shortest odds to win the World Series this year. Essentially what that means here is that if you invest in any team other than the Dodgers to win the World Series, it's going to return more than betting on the Dodgers to be the best team in the history of the game. They're plus 710.
I'm taking the field.
I'm taking it.
Just because of the odds, right, Keith? I mean, that's the smart mathematical play.
I would agree, but this number for the Dodgers to get to 117 is absurd. That is an absurd odds to put out before the season even begins, even knowing how good they've been. So it's hard to figure, guys, how they could get any better. But even if you look at the top end of the roster, they can get more from these guys. Now, we know Freddie Freeman was awesome in the postseason. Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. But when you just look at the regular season in terms of both health and production, there actually was kind of a drop-off from 2023 to 2024, especially in terms of the power and the plate appearances in terms of just staying on the field, Betts in particular. So a fully healthy season from each of their superstar position players could take them to even higher heights this year.
It's amazing.
The other big star here, obviously, Shohei Ohtani. We don't know when we're going to see him on the mound, but let's not forget how dominant this guy was as a starter his last 3 seasons when he was pitching. You see the MLB ranks there from 2021 to 2023. No one held opponents to a lower batting average than Shohei, and that's a pretty sizable sample size of pitchers with 400-plus innings in that span. Now, you think about that rotation, guys. Like I said, we don't know when we're going to see Ohtani. But they basically have an A team and a B team here to choose from the rotation. They've got 10 guys, and we could have put even more on this list.
They've got 2 rotations.
They'd have 2 rotations. That's correct, Roflo. And they could go to a 6-man, obviously, with the depth that they have and some of the history of the pitchers that they have come over from Japan, more comfortable pitching in that 6-man rotation. And it doesn't end there, guys. If there's not enough depth in the rotation, how about the bullpen? Some of these notable names. Alex Vesia, their most used reliever last year with a sub-2 ERA. Evan Phillips, a little bit of a down year last year, but since he's come over to the Dodgers, very reliable with that 2.28 ERA. Kopech was lights out after the trade last season. Great in the postseason. They won all but 1 game that he appeared in October. Blake Trinan, 5 appearances in 2022, missed 23 with shoulder surgery, right back to where he was in 2021 last year. And then the additions this year, guys. Kirby Yates, a great under-the-radar year for a losing Rangers team last season. And the icing on the cake, with Tanner Scott. 1.75 ERA, the best of his career. So the rich get richer, guys. I'll go back to that first board we talked about. Do we see the Dodgers with a chance to win 117-plus games and set a new MLB record?
With that lineup and everything they have on paper, yes, there's a chance. 117, Case, you know better than anyone, man. That's a big number.
There's a chance, but that's hard to do. What is that? That means they lose 45 games.
And all the transactions. You know, a lot of people have had, you know, there's been a lot of think pieces and people online complaining about the Dodgers acquisitions. I think it's great for the game. You know what the standard is. The Dodgers are the standard.
Right.
If you have a rooting interest outside of the Dodgers, your favorite team knows what the standard is. However, them signing the reanimated corpse of Honus Wagner, I thought was a little aggressive.
That's a little aggressive.
All right, guys, moving on to the Angels here. Like I said, opposite end of the spectrum, to say the least. You talk about the Dodgers making a run at the most wins in the history of the game. Compare that to what the Angels are coming off of, 99 losses, the most in the history of that franchise, and they limp to the finish line with a 7-19 record in September, the worst in the majors. 10 straight seasons now with no postseason appearances. That's the longest active drought in the majors, and the rotation was among their biggest issues last year. 18 different starters used the highest ERA among any American League team. You look at what they've done so far this offseason, guys. A lot of veteran additions. All the players on this board on the 40-man roster over 30 years old. Kikuchi, obviously the biggest addition. We'll see what Kyle Hendricks has left in the tank to help that rotation. I really like the Travis d'Arnaud addition. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But even going beyond these veterans that are on the 40-man, a couple intriguing minor league deals that they signed as well for guys whose careers have gotten off course the last couple of years. Tim Anderson, we know, was one of the best hitters in the majors just a few years ago, former batting champion, and a shoe-in for a 300 average every year until things fell apart on him suddenly a couple years ago. And you remember J.D. Davis last offseason, guys, went to arbitration with the Giants and won, but that contract not guaranteed because it was ruled by an arbiter. Ends up getting released. He's with Oakland. He's with New York. Struggles throughout the year, but again, not too far removed from being one of the more reliable bats in the game. We'll see if either of those two players can turn things around and contribute at the major league level. Now, guys that were there last year, about Logan O'Hoppe. Great first half of the season. Huge power for a catcher, but really fell off down the stretch. He caught 127 games last year, guys. That was the third most in the majors. That's why I mentioned d'Arnaud. You can't really have a better backup catcher than Travis d'Arnaud. He's filled that role beautifully the last couple of years with the Braves. Really more of a timeshare there in the last couple of years. But Murphy, as the insurance behind O'Hoppe, splitting time will probably help O'Hoppe stay on the field and be more durable and sustain through the second half, unlike he did last season. And the big fish, guys, we all know, Mike Trout.
Yep.
The health. Surgery last year on the torn left meniscus. He was on his way back, ended up tearing it again. Will he be able to stay on the field? Is this the year he moves out of center field, plays in the corner more, maybe DHs more? But you see the numbers. It is what it is, guys. He's missed 60% of the Angels' games over the last 4 seasons. Obviously, getting him back on the field would be a boon to that lineup. And in terms of things to look forward to, guys, their last couple of first-round picks have gotten to the big leagues in a hurry. When you talk about Zach Neto and Logan Chanuel, Christian Moore next up, really intriguing second baseman, guys. Started him at single A last year, right out of the draft, went 6 for 11 with 6 RBIs in 2 games, and they said enough of that, let's try double A. 322 with a 911 OPS. He basically was on pace for 35 and 99 if you project his double A numbers over 162 games. It was just a couple weeks sample size, but still, it's a guy that hit 34 home runs his last year in college as a second baseman. Pretty intriguing offensive profile. So we know the Angels have a long way to go, guys. What are we hopeful for the Halos in 2025?
Case, I think they'll be better.
I think they're going to be better.
The 99 losses, setting a franchise record, not hard to say that they will be better in 2025, but you saw that last graphic there. I love Zach Neto. I love Logan O'Hoppe, and I think Christian Moore is also
I think Christian Moore is a
big-time player.
No doubt. I think Neto's only getting better. I like the Kikuchi sign. I think that helps them out big time. d'Arnaud is good for them, too. And Kyle Hendricks, you never know. He could put up a good year. So 2 rotation pieces. They'll be better than 99 losses, I think.
Yeah, Keith, do we know, is Christian Moore slotted in? I mean, do they view him as the second baseman of the future?
He's going to go to camp and have a chance to break camp with the team, so who knows when we'll see him, but the door's open for him to play this year at some point for sure.
Yeah, I'm also hoping, we've seen Joe Adell show glimpses of brilliance, of power, And I'm hoping that continues. Maybe he's the center fielder and Trout moves to one of those corner outfield positions. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm with you. Adele's a guy we've been waiting on for a while.
Yeah. All right, Keith, good stuff. What's next on the list? What's M?
Are you asking me to recite the alphabet live on TV? I'm not capable of that.
M.
I'll get back to you on Monday morning.
So M is Milwaukee Brewers. I bet you that's
Great
next,
guess.
Keith. And the Marlins, because M, Miami, the whole thing. All right, Keith Costas, great stuff as always.
Good job, Keith.
Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays a little bit more. We opened the show talking about their signing of Max Scherzer, but what does that mean, and what will the future hold for Bichette and Vladdy Jr.? A lot to dissect with the Blue Jays. You're watching Hot Stove.
今シーズンのカリビアンシリーズは、まさに野球の魅力が詰まった最高の舞台となりました。ベネズエラ、ドミニカ共和国、メキシコ、そして日本の J、A、P、A、N、B、R-E-Z-E を含む各チームが誇りをかけた熱い戦いを繰り広げ、野球が持つ無限の可能性を改めて感じさせてくれました。まず J、A、P、A、N-B-R-E-Z-E の物語は本当に特別なものです。独立リーグの選手を中心に編成されたチームながら、NPB や MLB で活躍した経験を持つ宗則川崎のような選手が加わり、日本とカリブの野球文化が融合したユニークなチームとなっています。そして、その指揮を執るのはアレックス・ラミレス。彼は日本プロ野球の殿堂入りを果たした初のラテンアメリカ出身選手であり、日本語も流暢に話せることで知られています。彼の存在がこのチームの可能性をさらに広げ、カリビアンシリーズに新たな風を吹き込んでいます。一方、メキシコ代表として戦うロス・チャロス・デ・ハリスコのキャプテン、ジャック・メイフィールドもまた、心に響くストーリーを持っています。彼は、母親がメキシコ・コアウイラ州出身で、自身はアメリカのテキサス州デルリオで育ちました。子供の頃から母の影響でスペイン語を話し、今回、母の母国を代表して戦うことに大きな誇りを感じているとのこと。彼が語ったここでは、すべての試合がまるで最後の試合のような熱気に包まれているという言葉は、まさにカリビアンシリーズの魅力そのものです。メキシコの冬季リーグでは、多くの選手がシーズンを通してプレーし、その経験が MLB での成功につながることも多いのです。そして、ベネズエラ代表を率いるのは、かつて MLB で活躍したヘンリー・ブランコ。彼はワシントンナショナルズでデイビー・マルティネスのコーチとしても経験を積み、将来的に MLB の監督になる可能性もあるほどの指導力を持っています。彼が率いるロス・カルディナレス・デララは、伝統的に強豪チームとして知られ、今回もその実力を存分に発揮しました。試合の展開もさることながら、この大会の真の魅力は、選手たちの熱い情熱と、それを支えるファンの応援にあります。スタンドから聞こえるラッパの音、鳴りやまない歓声、そしてグラウンドで躍動する選手たちの姿は、まさに野球の醍醐味。特にカリブ海諸国のファンは、野球への情熱が並外れており、そのエネルギーが選手たちのパフォーマンスにも大きな影響を与えています。さらに、MLB のキャンプインが目前に迫る中、ロサンゼルス・ドジャースの新戦力についても大きな注目が詰まっています。すでにワールドシリーズの優勝候補として名前が挙がるドジャースですが、フレディ・フリーマン、ムーキー・ベッツといったスーパースターに加え、今季は翔平・大谷が戦をさらに強化します。彼の投手復帰はいつになるか分かりませんが、過去3シーズンのデータを見れば、マウンドに戻った時のインパクトは計り知れません。そして、驚くべきことにドジャースの先発陣は A チームと B チームを作れるほどの層の 厚さを誇っています。これほど充実した戦力が整っている今、歴史的なシーズンとなる可能性は十分にあります。一方、エンゼルスは昨シーズン99敗という屈辱を味わいましたが、今季は巻き返しを狙っています。優勢菊池、トラビス・ダノー、カイル・ヘンドリックスといったベテランを補強し、再建を図る方針が見て取れます。特に注目したいのは、若手選手の成長です。ローガン・オハピ、ザック・ネ等、そして期待の新生クリスチャン・ムーアの台頭が、チームにとって大きな希望となっています。そしてもちろん、マイク・ラウトの健康も大きな鍵を握ります。彼がフルシーズン活躍できれば、エンゼルスが大きく浮上する可能性も十分にあるでしょう。こうした物語が交錯する中で、今シーズンの野球はますます面白くなっていきます。カリビアンシリーズでの熱戦、そして MLB シーズン開幕へ向けた準備が進む今、私たちも全力でこのスポーツを楽しんでいきましょう。試合を観戦するだけでなく、選手たちのストーリーを知ることで、さらに深い感動が生まれます。そして、この興奮をもっと多くの人と共有したいなら、ぜひチャンネル登録して、最新の野球ニュースや選手たちのドラマを一緒に追いかけましょう。